The origin of language and its evolutionary emergence in the human species have been subjects of speculation for several centuries. The topic is difficult to study because of the lack of direct evidence. Consequently, scholars wishing to study the origins of language must draw inferences from other kinds of evidence such as fossil record, archaeological evidence, contemporary language diversity, studies of language acquisition, and comparisons between human language and system of communication existing among animals, particularly other primates. Many argue that the origins of language probably relate closely to the origins of modern human behavior, but there is little agreement about the implications and directionality of this connection. So today, we will tackle about the milestone in human evolution. The emergence of the order of primates, to which humans belong, dates to some 60 to 7 million years ago. Only a small fraction of the 3 to 4 billion years since life on Earth began. Most of the early primates were arboreal, but in the course of time, as a result of changes in the natural environment, some of them became adapted to existence on the ground. One of the subdivisions of primates is the superfamily of hominoids, or which we called Homoneidae, which in turn comprises three families. First is the lesser apes, which is composed of chamangs and gibbons. Next is the great apes, which is composed of gorillas, orangutans, and chimpanzees. And lastly, the hominids, which is composed of humans and their immediate ancestors. And now we will tackle about the stages of hominid evolution and presumed stages in the evolution of language. So the first one is the Cro-Magnons. It is prehistoric periods is Neolithic. Landmarks in cultural evolution is farming, spectacular portable and cave wall art, ritual activities. And the evolution of their language is Proto-Indo-European, earliest stage of full-fledged language. And the next one is the Neanderthals or the Homo sapiens, Neanderthals, archaic Homo sapiens. This is during the Paleolithic prehistoric period. And their landmarks is stone tools for prepared course, belief in afterlife, organized hunting, control and use of fire. And their evolution of language is that duality of patterning, beginnings of articular speech, an early stage of pre-language. And now, let us move to Homo erectus. And in this time, their language is blending. And on the next hand is the Homo habilis. And this time, the adaptations for pre-language. And on the next one is the several species of the genus Australopithecus, and their language is simply multimodal communication. And now we have hominids branch off from other hominoids, monkeys and apes diverge. So now we have the primates emerge, and we have this and we have the last, which is the Homo sapiens that is formed into a man, and which we are right now. And we already adopt a language, we learn how to speak language, we know how to speak a language or the language we have grown. And as time goes by, we learn how to speak, we learn how to communicate. And language is a help for us to communicate to everyone. And it is the beginning of our language. It is the historic period of our language. And now, let us proceed to our another topic. Okay, let us talk about language as an evolutionary product. After we talk about the milestone of human evolution, now we will tackle about the language as an evolutionary product. Like all aspects of human condition, language also must have been a product of evolution. However, unlike items of material culture, language leaves no physical traces of the evolutionary past. Until recently, many anthropologists, linguistics, and biologists believe that there was a little that could be said about the origins of language. Though no definitive answers can be given at present, recent studies in human genetics, behavioral biology, anatomy, and artificial intelligence give us reasons to be optimistic about solving some of the mysteries of the region and development language. Two sets of related issues must be addressed. The first big question is this: did language suddenly develop all at once, or was it a gradual process? The second question is, did language develop under selective forces directly acting upon it, or was it a secondary byproduct of evolutionary processes? Continuity versus discontinuity. In his book Dealing with Biological Foundations of Language, 1967, Eric H. Langenberg included an extended discussion of language in the light of evolution and genetics. Language development, he pointed out, may be viewed from two sharply differing positions. One, which Langenberg called the continuity theory. Continuity theory holds that speech must have ultimately developed from primitive forms of communication used by lower animals, and that studies like to reveal that language evolved in a straight line over time. According to this view, human language differs from animal language only quantitatively, that is by virtue of its much greater complexity. Although the proponents of a variant version of this theory argue that differences between human and animal communication are qualitative rather than merely quantitative, they also believe that all communicative behavior in the animal kingdom has come about without interruption, with simpler forms from the past contributing to the development of later more complex ones. The second theory, referred to as the discontinuity theory of language evolution and favored by Langenberg, holds that human language must be recognized as unique without evolutionary antecedents. Its development cannot be eliminated by studying various communicative systems of animal species at random and then comparing them with human language. One statement concerning the antiquity of language, however, can be made with some assurance, because all humans possesses the same biological potential for the acquisition of any language. The capacity for speech must have characterized the common ancestors of all humans before populations adapted to different environments and diversified physically. Langenberg rejected the continuity theory of language development for several reasons. Even though the great apes are the animals most closely related to humans, they appear to have few, if any, of the skills or biological prerequisites for speech. Frequently cited examples of animal communication have been drawn from insects, birds, and aquatic mammals, but the evolutionary relationship of these animals to humans vary greatly. That only few species within large families possesses particular innate communicative traits indicates that such species' specific behavioral traits have not become generalized and therefore are likely to be of relatively recent date. And now, language as emergent versus language as innate. Spudrels, or language as an evolutionary byproduct. The paleontologist Stephen J. Cood, 1941 to 2002, argued that evolutionary biology needed a term for features that arose as byproducts of, rather than actual adaptations. He calls such features spudrels. By analogy with the curved areas of supporting arcs found in Renaissance architecture. Though pleasing to the eye and usually covered with beautiful decorative art, spudrels were necessary to provide needed support to a square frame of the archway. Likewise, for example, the feathers of birds may have originally evolved as a mechanism for regulating heat and body temperature, as seen, say, in modern-day penguins. Over time, however, feathers seem to have taken on other use. If through this co-opting of feathers for use in flight would be an example of a spudrel. The question is, did language evolve directly, or was it a spudrel? Noam Chomsky and some others who subscribe to the existence of a universal language faculty, that language itself evolved as byproduct. according to Chomsky and Fitch 2010. Stephen Thinker and Bloom 1990 argues that natural selection played a more direct role in language evolution. The process of natural selection designed a language acquisition device module in the proto-human mind, and evolutionary forces increasingly made it more sophisticated over time. However, believes that modern neurology supports the claim that human language processing is an evolutionary outgrowth of the primate visual information processing system. The key question, he argues, is: does neurology that supports language processing involve any language-specific mechanisms, or is it just a collection of pre-existing modules that have been recruited to do so? So, I hope that you have learned something from this, that language as an evolutionary product, and language is a byproduct. So everything we say, everything we learn today is a byproduct of our historical periods. And that would be all for this discussion. And if you have some questions, clarifications, you can comment below or you can PM me. And this is Joandre Arcilla, your reporter. God bless.